All right, Matt here again. Eris is red, and in the last tutorial in part 1, I showed you how to make the geometry for this, and in this one, we'll be focusing more on Octane and texturing. We will start off with texturing our thing. And so I'm just going to get rid of these particles for now, and let's get rid of everything else as well. So we're just left with our thing. And even, let's get rid of these particles here. So I am going to bring open a second window. I'm not going to do viewport rendering. I'm just going to have this up here and throw you there. Okay, so we still have a protection tag on, but let me zoom into something like that. So I'm going to show you a preset that I've made that I find really works for these gross fleshy things, and then I'm going to show you how to make it. So I just have it in my live viewer. I have this one that I made called SSS Flesh. I'm just going to download that, throw it on for now, and wait for it to load forever. Throw it on our thing. And you can see it's all mapped wrong. That's fine for now. I'm just going to zoom in here so we can get a bit of perspective. Okay. So yeah, it's not quite mapped right. So let's, because it defaults to spherical for OpenVDB mesh creations. I don't know why, but let's try. Yeah, no, we're not getting. Let's try spatial. Spatial's okay. I still really like to use cubic. Well, you get some jankiness with textures that don't line up, but so look at that beautiful subsurface. Love me some subsurface. Anyway, okay, so yeah, let's get to making this subsurface scattering material. It'll look something like this. I want to switch it up a little bit, but let's get rid of that. Okay, let's make, what we want to do is make a specular material. And let's not add it quite yet. Let's just get into our tree and make it. So I like to work in the node viewer. It's so much easier to see what's going on. There's certain things that you can only do in the node viewer, or the node editor. It does get a little slow and laggy, and it kind of frustrates me, so if it does, I might pause and speed up the video. Like, I've got a pretty beefy system, and it's still, I don't know, they got some bugs to work out. But anyway, okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to go to, there's certain things I just do up here, just because it will add a few things. So I will go to scattering medium, and that will add that. And then what we want to do is add some RGB spectrums. Where are you? I always forget where you are. Hello, alphabet. Okay, RGB spectrum. And we want two. Okay, so you can see it's already freezing up. So we want two of these. So one to go into the absorption and one to go into the scattering. And so the first one, for our fleshiness, let's make it a little bit reddish pink. Somewhere around there, a little desaturated. Something like that, maybe a little orangish actually, a little reddish orange. That's kind of skinny, I like that. Okay, and then the second one, so the absorption is the main thing, and then the scattering, once the light is inside of the object, it's going to bounce around, and this is the color that it will be bouncing around. And I always like to do blue for this one, because it gives kind of this sickly, gross fleshiness. So let's make it, a little greenish, just gross. Okay, and then in the scattering medium, I like to start out at around 50 for this one. And so we're already getting pretty close to what I want. Now, this one is really important, is you want to go to fake shadows and tick that on. That should just be a default. I don't know why it's not a default for specular materials, because it should always be on in my opinion. And I can show you the difference once we put it on the actual model, but if you don't have fake shadows on, it will be a lot darker, and you won't get, like, there are certain times where it's actually the look you're going for, but in this case, fake shadows should just be on, in my opinion. Okay, now I want to add a bump to make it really nice and gross and bumpy. And the way I want to do that is to add, there's two ways you can either use, well, there's many ways, but I like to use a marble. And I just throw that just straight on the bump, and quite often I just go with default because it works great. So let's change, I want to change the index. Let's make it a little gooier looking. Let's go 1.55. You can look up index of refraction and find out, you know, specifically what you're going for, but like even this little preview is looking pretty good. That might be too much, 1.4. If you have it too high, it gets kind of silvery. Like if I bump it up to 2, it's a little silvery, and maybe that's the look you want, but maybe 3.5. Let's try 1.4. Details. Okay. So that's essentially our fleshiness. That's kind of, well, let's throw it on our model and see what we have. Again, it's going to default to spherical. Let's put it on spatial. Spatial's not bad. It gets a little stretched there. Let's go cubic. Try that. That's not too bad. That is kind of what I want. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Let that resolve a little bit. Yeah, I really like that. So you can kind of see a bit of subsurface there. If you want to play with that a bit, what you do is you go into your medium, and then you change the density of the medium, and then you'll get more or less. If you bump it up to 150, it will be a lot darker. But if I have it down to, 5, less dense, it's looking more like jello or something. But for this purpose, I like it. Oh, we're frozen. I like it somewhere around 50. Come on. 50. 50 is pretty good. Oh yeah, and so if I show you without fake shadows on, it's just a lot darker, and so you have to introduce a lot more light to get the same effect. And I tend to like this more. So yeah, I use the marble as a bump. Another one that I do really like to use, let's just preview it here, is use the C4D Octane noise, and then I switch it to circular, and then just play with these a little bit until you get something that you like. Yeah, I'm not really stoked on that right now. More octaves. Yeah, it's a little too clean. Not really getting the bump that I want from it. So let's just go back. I'm going to go back to marble. You can also use an image texture, of course, whatever you want. Okay, so I am pretty happy with how that's looking. I might actually make it a little lighter. I kind of want it to be a little bit lighter. So, maybe absorption a little lighter as well. Actually, absorption a little darker, maybe. Yeah, that's pretty good. Get a little variation, between the colors, so it's not just one static color. That's pretty good. That's real fleshy and gross. Like, what the hell is this thing, right? Okay. So, got our base. Now, why don't we move on to our hairs? And so the hairs on their own, from this distance, aren't too bad. When you get up a little closer, you might start to notice they're kind of boring and flat. So why don't we use another specular material for them? And one way I find that you can, I'll show you how to use this, how to make this fog shader. It's really dead simple. It was something I think I learned from David Ariev, who I think learned from Beeple, I believe. But it's, again, fake shadows on. This is a good way of faking fog for these tiny little things without having all the processing needs of it. So let's throw that on our hairs, and you can see they're doing a little bit, but what you do is you just add a little bit of roughness, or a lot bit of roughness might work. And what I was saying earlier, like when it catches in the light here, like you get some really nice, oh, I love that. That looks great. Yeah. That's maybe working. Let's bump that way up so you can see all of them a little better. That's not too bad. Like this is, you know, it's a fine detail, but those fine details are kind of what make things and give things realism. Just layering up, just continuing to layer things up. So, okay. I'm good with that. Let's turn on our web. And also the web is going to kind of cover a lot of stuff up, but you can still see our hairs. I actually have too many. That's okay. So we'll copy that specular material and bring the roughness down a lot. And let's throw that on the web. Let's see what we got. So because we have specular materials, and these are all specular materials, that takes a load of processing, and so it's also going to take a long time to render. That's just the nature of specular materials. It takes a long time to render. So just be prepared. And so one thing we could actually do to get a better, quicker response is to just remove our base, and so we can kind of see what it's doing. So you can see it has like, it's got like this foggy kind of look to it, this kind of webby look, right? And so I really like using specular materials for that purpose. Let's throw that back on so we get our color. Let that resolve a bit. Let's use a render region. So it'll resolve a little quicker. That's not too bad. Could even bring the roughness down a little more, so we get a little more translucency. But that's pretty good. Now, kind of want to change the color of the webbing, so let's go to our transmission, and I'm feeling a little yellow for it. Just a tiny bit, because it drastically changes it. A little too much. Let's go like 3%. Yeah, that's gross. Oh, it's so gross. I love it. Okay. Let's pull back, take a little look-see. So that's getting there. That's getting pretty good. Okay, we can leave that for now. So I'm going to turn both of those off for the moment. And let's switch to the scatter and see. Hello, where are you, scatter? Come on, baby. Why? Okay, I've got to figure out why the scatter is only showing up in one tiny spot. Did I screw up the noise? I'm going to screw up the noise here. Interesting. that's odd. I don't know why those just disappeared so much. I thought they were more even distribution, but okay, let's make that less. Because I do want them to be distributed a lot more. Let's bump that up again. Better. Much better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I will make this 2. And then this one 3. Kind of looks like mold growing on it now, which is just lovely. Now that is going to get covered a bit if I turn our web back on. It might get hidden, but oh no, actually that's going to be really good. Yeah. So yeah, you can get kind of like this moldy thing. And okay, now, okay, so for these Octane scatters, now what I want to do is to make some sort of kind of fog. So the way we would make a fog is essentially the same as the way we made the flesh subsurface, sort of. So we will make a specular material. This one we're going to set our index to 1, and that makes it kind of invisible. Now we're going to turn fake shadows on as well. And a medium, we're going to add a scattering medium, and we will put the same RGB spectrum on both of those. And we are going to leave that at the default white, which is just less than full white actually. And because these are going to be so small, we actually want the density to be a lot higher. And so we'll just leave that at 100 for now and throw that on one of those. Let's unpause this render. And let's copy this and do a second one. Let's change the color a little bit. Let's make it a little bluey. And throw that on the second one. Wait for that to add itself. Okay, so now we can see a little bit of variation on there. I might actually want to up that density to 150. Put you also to 150. I don't know how I feel about that now. It's kind of interesting. Okay, let's leave that for now. Now, so we've got our hairs, we've got our web, and we've got our scatter. Now, what are we going to do with the particles that we have floating around? Well, I kind of want to make them emissive. And so, let's turn these back on. So this is our floaty particles attached to this Octane object. So let's make an emissive material, and by doing the way to do that, we will make a diffuse. I'm just going to pause this so that we can work a little quicker. Once it wakes up here. Come on. Okay. So, diffuse material, I like to set this to black. And then in the emission, we'll go to black body emission. And because our particles are going to be pretty tiny, we can get away with doing surface brightness. I'll bring this, we'll actually bring this down to 10. And what I want to do is add a color here. And I kind of want these to be a bit orangish. So let's try that for now and see what we get. I'll put that on there. I'm going to undock this and switch over to viewport rendering. And we will send this again. Oh, move one frame forward to get our particles. Oh, because it's hidden, of course. Unhide that. Okay, let's find a better angle, actually. Let's find something a little more interesting. Let's do... Let's see what that looks like. That could be kind of cool, actually. That might not be bad. Let's send that. Let's see where we are. Let that render a little bit. Just gonna pull this out so we have the full viewing. It's not too terrible. It's also not too amazing yet. Yeah, with all of these subsurface and the specular, all the specular materials are creating quite a bit of processing requirements. So it's going to take quite a while to render. That's just kind of how it is. But hopefully it'll be worth it. Let's try to find a good angle. We'll try that maybe. That's kind of neat. I don't like that. I'm actually going to switch to undocked. It's just easier to move around sometimes with the viewport. So you can kind of see what else is going on around. Okay. Kind of digging that. I spend a lot of time just looking around, trying to find if something's more interesting, if there's a better angle. What if we just look right down this, and then we can use some focusing. Okay, so in my Octane camera, if you hold down Control and then middle mouse button click, it will set a focus point. You could also use this here, but I always forget to turn it off. And then as soon as I'm trying to move around my scene, I'm suddenly shifting the focus again. So if you hold down Control and middle mouse button click, you will also be able to set your focus point. And then in your Octane camera here, you have to turn off autofocus, and then you start playing with the aperture slider, and that will increase or decrease the blur around your focal point. So now using this, you can get some like really realistic looking photorealistic kind of effects. Still haven't found a good angle I like, but that's not too shabby. That's not too shabby. I'm just gonna focus pick this here. So what I would like to do here is I would like to put it in a volume, a fog volume, but I think that might take way too long to render, given that this is already going to take a very long time to render. So we'll see. You know what, for the sake of this video, I'll show you how I do it, though, even though I might not render it this way. Or I might, and it will just take forever to render. I don't know. We'll see. So how I would do that, you could put it in your HDRI, or you could make a Octane fog volume. I find this one really slows things down, so my preferred way of doing it is I will select my camera, and I will use an object to become the fog volume. And so, with my camera selected, I will hold down Alt, and to make this cube a parent of the camera. And the reason you want to do this, if I jump out of the camera view here, see, if I make a cube a child of it, it's going to put it in just center. And if I make it a parent of it, it will use this camera's positioning and place this right at the center of that. So then if I make that now a child of the camera, and then I move that to where I want it to, and I'll make it something like that. Should be pretty good. Yeah, that should be pretty good there. Let's jump back in. Yeah. Okay. And we'll hide that for now. But now you can see if we decide to move in or out the camera, this will go along with it. And you'll see why that's important in a second. So let's create a fog material which will go on this. Again, that's going to be another specular. It will be just the same way as, actually, we could just duplicate that. It will be the exact same as these. I'm just going to label this one fog so we know what we're working with. But this one, we want our density to be something like 0.1. And you'll see once we put it on here and then hide this, if I click render again, you're going to see a couple things straight away. So, first thing you're going to see is you're going to see the HDRI lighting up this specular material. Now, we don't want that. We don't want to see our HDRI. So, one thing with working with these fogs is, yeah, you kind of... lighting with an HDRI doesn't really work. There might be a workaround for this. I haven't found it yet. So, I like to just turn that off, get rid of our HDRI for now, and go into our black PG one. We have to set it to primary environment to give us a black background. And now you can see we're only being lit up with the emissive material, so we need to add some lighting. So I'm just going to dock that for now, and I will check camera, and that means we can jump out of our camera here, and our perspective here is not going to change, which is super handy for doing lighting. So let's make a Octane area light. It's facing away from the camera, so let's face it straight down instead, and let's pull it up out of the scene. And so it'll just kind of light things from above, and you get this kind of nifty, like, underwater-ish kind of look that I really like. Or in space or something. I'm just going to move that so we can get a little bit of highlighting on the front, on these little arms and everything. Now, I would really like to accentuate the subsurfacing in here. Losing my words. Okay, so I'm going to make another light. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. I'm going to rotate it 90 that way. And I'm going to throw it back. I'm probably going to have to decrease the... Yeah, actually I'm going to throw it more over here. More from behind. Don't want it to be seen though, so pull it out of frame. And I want to make this one kind of orangish, so we'll skew this way on the temperature scale. Yeah, our specular is making this scene very intense. Let's undock this for a second so we can get a better view. And jump back to the camera. Okay, just gonna let this render for just a few. Change that, and so that's not gonna update this until we switch on check camera. And it'll hang out for a second, and then if you make any tiny adjustments or just wait, it will show up again. Okay, so yeah, I'd love to use this, but it's it might make our render times just crazy. So but I might just go with it because I like the look. So yeah, I kind of like that. It's kind of like this octopusy, tentacly thing. Yeah, so that's I'm kind of liking where that's getting to. So I'm going to let's make this a little bigger so you can kind of see. And I'm going to switch on our render region so I can just do a little chunk, make that nice and high quality, and see if we like where we're at. Let's find a different area. Let's try these little moldy bits here. I kind of want to light up down here a little bit, just because we're not getting any light, so I might add another light back. Yeah, I think so. Let's do that. So let's pause that for now, and I want to jump out of this camera, and so we're going to want to add a light somewhere around here. Don't need to see these X particles right now, so I'm just going to get rid of those. Let's add another light, scale it down, and pull it back somewhere around here. I want that pretty small. And let's maybe give it a bit of blue light by skewing the temperature this way. And let's pull our live viewer back up and send to it again. I actually have to bring it up because I made the light so small. And let's just do the render region down here. So that. So I think the fog is blowing things out a little too much. Let's even go even smaller. Let's go 0.03. And it'll render faster, and it will also give us a bit more detail, but we still get this kind of environment look back here. So that's looking better for me. Okay, let's turn off the render region to give us some perspective. Okay, so I think I'm liking what we've got here. I think I like this. Yeah, so sometimes when I'm just trying to get positioning right, I will just turn off this fog volume just so it'll render a lot quicker and you can see what's going on a little bit better. Of course, with these specular materials, it's not going to render that much quicker. So yeah, unfortunately, adding any kind of subsurface and any kind of volume just increases your render time exponentially. So, but I'm liking what this is looking like. So I kind of want to focus in on something interesting and blur out the rest. So I'm going to tilt this up just a hair. Now, one thing to remember if you're doing this technique is to make sure that your cube is turned off if you're doing your focus picking, because otherwise the cube is right in front here. So I'll show you what happens if I try and pick the focus with this hidden cube, which is our fog volume. If I do that, and I click anywhere, it's not clicking on this geometry, it's clicking on the cube that is right in front of the camera. So make sure to click this off when you're doing your focus. And let's focus that again. Maybe down here would be more interesting. I'm actually going to turn off. I'm going to take the subsurface and I'm just going to drag it onto the XP system for now, just so we can get a lot quicker feedback of what we're looking at here. I'm going to send that again. Yuki, can you hear my kitten? Hi buddy, you hungry? Okay, let's turn all of these off, because wow, it's being very sluggish for some reason. Oh wow, you know what? I think it's the Octane scatter that's making this so crazy. Because these fog things on here, I'm just going to remove those for now. We might even just get rid of them altogether. Because if it's adding that much render time, then we don't want that. Oh yeah, look at that. So that is a lot of scattering. So let's maybe pull this down to 3,000 instead. Yeah, and we'll make it even smaller. 1. Well, we'll play with that in a moment. Anyway, so might actually be able to put our subsurface back on and have it not be crazy. So let's try that. Oh wow, that's so much better. Okay, I didn't even realize that. My apologies. And then, yeah, let's try something like that. Let's turn our hairs back on. And let's turn our fog volume back on. Save that. And then let's do our focus pick again. Oh, I didn't turn off the cube. That's why you turn off the cube. And we can turn that back on. Let's do a render region to see where we're at. So I think we're going to be pretty good with this. I am liking how it's looking. Could do with a bit more of the subsurface though. It's not really coming through except for here. So and that, I don't really like how that's working, but with the blurriness it might actually be okay. Well, okay, I'm not minding how that is looking. Let's just turn this a little bit more. Make sure I've checked camera on, yes I do, and let's focus pick somewhere in there, and that'll mean this part gets all blurry, which would be great. Not really digging that. Okay, go up here, focus pick that again, and then I'm just going to up the count on this again so you can kind of see the little pockets of mold. I'm not really seeing them. Maybe go up to 20,000 now that I don't have the fog on them. Maybe it'll be a little better. Let's get rid of those for a second. And they've just disappeared again. Interesting. Well, I don't really know why that would be. Sometimes you just have to close the Octane Live Viewer and resend it. But actually I'm not seeing them on there. Let's switch it to vertex and then back to surface. No. No. Let's re-add thing. No. Let's clear that. Re-add it. It's just not happy with the Octane scatter. Change the seed, maybe? No. It's just not cooperating. Okay, well, I'm going to copy this bump, or this noise shader, get rid of this Octane scatter, and pull that out, make a new Octane scatter, and then throw in our sphere. Just do this all over again. Put the thing, 10,000. Okay, now we're starting to see them again. Let's open up our live viewer. Okay, there they are. And I will go to our scale and paste in our noise shader. Maybe I'm just an idiot and I just completely destroyed them by having too much of a noise. So let's, yes, I think that's exactly what happened. Okay. Yeah, this one, get something like that. And the sphere, let's change to 3. So now I'll have these nice little pockets of stuff. Okay, let's turn back on our hairs. Nice, nice. I don't know how I'm feeling about this web. It's kind of bothering me a little bit. I don't know, your discretion, I suppose. Actually, with the web, I think what I'm going to do is change this down even further. Let's go 0.15 on the thickness, and that might help even it out a little bit, make it a little less obviously there, but still there. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's kind of like more of a fine like spiderwebby kind of thing. Okay, I think we're pretty close here. So I'm gonna put this fog back on. Octane sphere things. Doesn't look like it applied it. So let's, oh yeah, it did. Okay, there we go. And we got our focus picked. And I will turn this back on. And then while this renders away, this isn't going to be the final render, but what I want to show you is my render settings before we stop here. So I was working at 5,000 just so I could get a better sense of things, but typically when I'm working, I'm in path tracing at 1,000 samples. For this, I figure it will probably be around 5,000 that I'm happy with. You can actually estimate the number of samples by opening up the render region here, picking a small area, and then just waiting until it looks good and counting the number of samples. And so with volumes you're going to need a fair bit, and with subsurface as well. Like this, just because of the nature of the scene, it can be a little grainy and gross because it's a grainy, gross thing. And so you might be able to set it to 5,000 and then say after an hour, if it's looking okay, just stop the render and then click save. And then you'll just be able to save it out and then that's fine. I'm going to go with 5,000. I'll usually put it to 10,000, but I think I'm going to go with 5,000 here. I'll let you look at my other settings here. This is just kind of standard, but kind of what I've come across as well. Just little things, like I think I've increased the parallel samples and saved that as a preset, I believe. And always adaptive sampling when I do images. It speeds things up a lot. Not necessarily with volumes. Doesn't really. Apparently with animations, I think you want to turn on static noise. Not entirely sure why. With animations, I found adaptive sampling kind of screws things up. I don't really like to do denoising with volumes. I find things get very smeary. I do like to play around with LUTs though. They're they're very nice because they're post, and so it's not going to increase render time or anything. I'm not going to really be able to see the difference on here. Oops, probably because I'm not changing the LUTs. But yeah, you can get very interesting looks. I'm going to actually use a LUT for this. Let's just scroll through until you find, like, this can just save you on your post-processing time by getting a look that you kind of want already. I kind of like how bright this one, maybe too bright. Actually, no, I don't think I will do a LUT. Just go back to sRGB. Cool. And then post, of course, I always use some bloom, because bloom. Octane, goodness. Okay. I think I actually want to increase the aperture even more. Get it real nice and blurry up here. And then just have a nice focal point. I'm going to move this to my second monitor to just try and dial things in a little bit better. Because I have a giant 4K monitor and it helps to be able to see things. Okay, you know what? I'm going to end the tutorial here, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed walking through this this process, and I hope you learned something. And I am by no means an XParticles or a Octane expert. This is just stuff that I've come across, discovered, figured out. Yeah, please send me, tag me, just private message me, whatever you make from this tutorial, if it inspires you, or if you make just exactly this. I kind of want to see what you make. So, thanks for listening, thanks for watching.